Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second day of our virtual conference. My name is Mariana, and I'm honored to be your host today for Asia's first virtual conference, Leaders and Coaches of Asia 2024. For those who might have missed day one of our conference, this is a 3.5 day conference for leaders, CXOs, and coaches. This conference aims to illuminate the latest and most innovative coaching practices that can empower leaders and organizations. We have an exciting lineup of speakers and sessions planned ahead, designed to inspire, inform, and connect us all. Let's dive in and make the most of this incredible opportunity to learn and collaborate. We will be starting our conference with a session on coaching. But before that, I will be playing a short video to help you understand why we need this conference. Just give me a moment while I share the video. Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. So with no further ado, let's welcome our first speaker for today, Dr. Ashish Segal, who is a licensed NLP trainer and master coach specializing in neuro-linguistic programming, emotional intelligence, and leadership development. With over 2 decades of experience, he leads Business Univ Leadership and Coaching Academy, renowned for transformative leadership and organizational development. Dr. Sehgal integrates NLP principles with strategic coaching to empower individuals and teams, driving sustainable success and holistic growth. He will talk about the boundary hexagon model, which empowers leaders to build a more sustainable and balanced leadership style by establishing healthy boundaries across various aspects of their lives. Welcome, Ashish. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Mariana, and welcome everybody. I'm Ashish Sehgal, and let's start with a little talk. Um, I have been coaching for about 20 years now, and during the journey, somewhere I started learning about boundaries, and it became one of my top three learnings in my life and in my profession. And I have implemented models for boundaries in many areas of business coaching, leadership, sales, and even life coaching for that matter. Today, we are going to talk about boundaries in leadership. And leaders often face challenges when they don't know how and where to draw proper boundaries with love, empathy, and firmness. So it's important to draw boundaries in a way that it feels like empathy, love, and firmness. So this model, I'll start sharing with the screen. Let me share the screen with you. So is the PPT visible to all of you? Please.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. We're talking about the boundary hexagon today. And the boundary hexagon basically talks about 6 different areas where leaders can choose to draw boundaries. A little bit about how I came across the concept initially and what do I do. I'm Ashish Sehgal. I'm a master trainer, as Mariana has also said, and a master coach of NLP and AI. I've been coaching and training since 2004. I have a total work experience of about 38 years now, based in Gurgaon, India. I founded Business Unit Leadership and Coaching Academy in 2004. So it's almost 20 years now, and we run our offices from Gurgaon. Our primary brand is NLP Authority, where we provide NLP trainings. I've also authored a couple of books. The first book is The Artful Nudge. It's a book on metaphors. It's a book which I am quite uh, proud of actually. It has more than about 400 metaphors for various coaching situations divided by categories. Then there's another book I authored, which is called No Means No Honey. It's again about drawing boundaries in personal life. And then uh, the other book which I had authored at some point of time is called Uncuff Your Life with NLP. So with this, I think I have given you some idea of what I do. Let's move with what is the most important topic of the day. And let's talk about leaders today. A lot of coaches and leaders are here today. And I want to know, as leaders and as coaches, as individuals, sometimes do you all feel overwhelmed? I guess I do get overwhelmed. And a couple of years ago, I was feeling a lot of that as a business leader before I stepped into my coaching world. So there were frequent burnouts. Every now and then I would feel a burnout. I'm sure many of you can relate to it. Burnouts in organizations, if you don't manage your boundaries, become quite frequent. If you don't manage those burnouts, it can actually end your career sometimes. Then productivity, it gets decreased. When we get overwhelmed as leaders, as coaches, as individuals, our productivity starts going down time and again. And then, of course, negative impacts on personal well-being. Our personal life starts a negative downtrend at that point of time. Overwhelming can cause all of this. And that is where it becomes really important to understand what are boundaries. About 10 odd years ago, when I was facing some challenges and I didn't know they were boundary challenges, one of my coaches shared a book with me. And that book helped me to understand boundaries really well. So if you want a recommendation, I would highly recommend this book by Dr. Henry Cloud called Necessary Endings. I think it's one of the best business books about boundaries. And then I studied further and simplified what boundaries are for all of us. So boundaries are limits that we set to protect our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. It's about our body, our heart, our emotions, and our mind. And they all need to be protected. Think about it like this. Most of us live in homes, houses, your houses, and even now you're sitting in a room somewhere. What would happen if there were no walls in that room? Just think about it. There are no walls in this room you're sitting, or there are no walls in that home or that office. The whole environment is going to rush in. Think about your living room without walls, without boundaries. Maybe a cow could walk in and sit on your, expensive carpet and do whatever it wants to. Think about it. So boundaries are limits we draw to protect our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Boundaries are really, really important. Boundaries also define what is acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior from our environment. It could be our co-workers, it could be our seniors, it could be our juniors, it could be our vendors, it could be our clients, it could be family members, friends, anybody. It is important for us to define what is the behavior I can accept and what do I say no to. Unfortunately, in, right from childhood, we have not really been taught the concept of boundaries. And therefore, it becomes difficult to draw boundaries. It doesn't come naturally to most of us. At least it did not come naturally to me. So healthy boundaries become so essential for all of us. It avoids the burnouts. It maintains a healthy work-life balance. See, boundaries, it is so important to understand. Let's understand with one more example. Most of you have seen plants being groomed and pruned. Think of a rose plant. And you must have seen a gardener, or maybe sometimes you yourself, start pruning the plant so that all the nutrition goes to the rose. And when it goes to the rose just becomes beautiful. But if you do not prune the plant, if you do not draw boundaries, if you do not say no, if you do not make necessary endings to things that are draining your nutrition and resources, your rose, your life may not really bloom as well. So, in the words of Dr. Henry Cloud, what do boundaries do? It's a very simple definition. One of the most simplest one I've come across. Boundaries keep the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. This is the simplest way to remember what boundaries are. They keep what is good for you in and they keep what's bad for you out. And this is how boundaries work. And I was talking about pruning. So just the way flowers need pruning, our life needs pruning. And it is important for us to identify what needs to be pruned. what needs to go so that your resources are directed towards the life you want to build. It is so important to remember that only pruning would beautify your life. Many of you would have drawn many boundaries in your life, knowingly or unknowingly, and many of you would be trying to do so. Let's move a little ahead. Well, boundaries and pruning makes space for growth. There's a lot of growth that happens when you draw boundaries. Boundaries must be healthy, breathable boundaries. And boundaries help us maintain our own balance and strength. So I will like to ask some of you uh, for some questions. And I would like to ask you, please use the question box right now and let me know, have you been drawing boundaries as of now or no? What do you think?
They can use the chat as well. The chat is open.
Yeah. So please go to the chat box. I see a lot of messages here. Yes. So in the chat box itself, please tell us about how you draw boundaries. If you've not been able to draw boundaries, what are your views about it or what you have heard right now? Yes, Ramana, thank you for this. Yes, drawing boundaries even in personal relationship, not just office workplace setting. Absolutely right. Ahmed Ali says no. Lucas says, I recently left a group of people I lately had nothing in common and was draining my energy because the people in there also had views different than mine. Absolutely. So some of us are able to draw some boundaries. Some of us find it a little difficult to draw boundaries. Nikhil says, sometimes I can and other times I find it difficult. Absolutely, Nikhil, that's where I have been many times in my life. It is difficult. The key seems to be clear about my focus and priorities. Ramana says the other person in relationship with us may not always like. Yes, Ramana, that is true. And that is where drawing boundaries with love, empathy, and firmness is important. That's what we're going to talk today about. That how do we draw boundaries? What are the statements? Be it leadership, business, sales, personal life, relationship. How do we draw boundaries? Today we're going to talk a lot about this. Adhir says, yes, I define boundaries in professional and personal spaces. Thank you, Adhir. That's wonderful. Let's come back to the slideshow. So when we draw boundaries, let us understand what are the 6 major elements of boundaries. The 6 areas, that is where it is important. And this hexagon helps out find out the blind spots that we are weak, where our boundaries are weak. What are those areas? And again, boundary hexagon also helps us assess the strengths and weaknesses of these boundaries and develop strategies for improvement. So we'll talk about these 6 areas one by one, and I hope these are helpful to you. I'm sure there would be more areas. As far as leadership is concerned, I found these 6 areas being the most crucial ones. So the first area I'm going to talk about is work-life balance. Well, how many of you struggle to disconnect from work outside the office hours? I'm sure many of us have done that at some point in time in life. Many of us are doing it even now. Are we able to disconnect, or are we still into the culture where not only we work outside office hours, but also we ask other people in the organization to work outside the office hours. This culture has been increasing since the online world has kind of taken up. And it's not really good for your lives. I see people working 16 hours a day, and the work-life balance goes for a toss. When we're talking about work-life balance, I would also like to share a view about that, which says that work is a part of your life, not your life. I know many of us uh, in youth or sometime are told that work is everything, work is your life. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of time, a long time to understand that it is not true. It is not at all true. And that is where work-life balance is the key here. So then we talk about relationships with our peers. In your organizations as leaders, I'm sure there are peers, and we think about our relationships with them. And when we think about our relationship with them, we think about, are we taking other people's tasks? Are we feeling taken advantage of sometimes? What happens? Have some of you felt that in your life, sometime in your leadership roles, that yes, just to feel like a good leader or maybe you're helping others, it becomes that people start taking advantage because you are messing up with your own work-life balance a lot. Sometimes our ambitions make us do so. But believe me, if you don't have ambitions for a balanced life, it's going to mess up big time. Then we talk about our relationship with the seniors and superiors. As leaders, as coaches, as people, um, as entrepreneurs, in personal life also, there are some people who are elders or seniors or superiors in an organization. Are our expectations clear? Or do you feel overloaded with work? Sometimes this overload over a period of time can cause serious burnouts. Every now and then in my coaching work, I meet senior leaders who have just burned out. About a month ago, I was working with a senior partner of a law firm, a very popular law firm in India. And she had completely burned out for work in last 10 years, never taking a holiday, always being there for clients, multi-million dollar negotiations every day. And then so much of burnout that the health started draining away. Just think about yourself. Are you doing something that can bring you to that burnout? Are you setting your expectations clear? Or are you feeling overload? And you know what? Sometimes people take that overload with a lot of joy and happiness also. Kind of odd, but that happens. Next, that's a very interesting area, which is called the information overload. Are you constantly bombarded by email, calls, and notifications? Emails had already taken over our lives even decades ago. And since the mobile phones became popular, now the calls everywhere, even after your office hours, most of us don't switch off our phones. It has kind of become a standard practice that anybody from office or work or clients can just call you anytime. Remember those good old days of many of you who remember that we had that tabletop telephone which had a wire. I heard somewhere the wired phone became wire free and we got entangled. We are tied to the phone now. The phone is not tied to the table. We are tied. So emails, calls, and then all those beep, 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 beep notifications all the time, day and night. And even if you keep them on the vibrate mode, think about all the stress you're gathering all the time. All notifications from your co-workers, your office, even your social media. The social media addiction has added to the problem. So just think about it. How many notifications you feel you get in a day? When we did a research, it was almost like 100 plus notifications in a day. 10 years ago, it was not there. Today, you have almost all of you have at least 100 notifications in your mobile phone every day. There could be emails, there could be missed calls, there could be notifications from your messages, social media, no matter what. And that is where it just becomes troublesome. And then finally, let us talk about physical boundaries. Are you going out? Let me ask you a question here. I'm sure many of you do take frequent breaks, but are they adequate? And are you able to maintain a healthy work-life balance by taking breaks? I'm opening the chat screen for a moment right now, and let me ask you this question. How many of you leave your laptops at home while going for a break? Or do you carry your laptops all the time with you, even on a holiday? Waiting on the chat box, what do you think? Do you carry your laptops on holidays? I do. Kaveri says, I do leave it at home. That's wonderful. I also do the same, Kaveri. What else? What about others? Are you able to draw boundaries with your laptop? Physical boundaries. Abdullah says, it's always with me. Think about what you're carrying. You're carrying your office with you. Sometimes we can feel proud of it, but it can mess us up big time. Big time. I carried it. She says, at home with an office message. I inform everyone that I'm gone. I'm quite loud about it. Yes. I usually bring it with me. All tech is off on holidays, only a camera to watch. That's lovely fun. So we can choose to stay away from our laptops and offices on at least breaks. How many of you, if you have a Sunday as a holiday, how many of you can take a decision that I'll not open my laptop on a Sunday? I will not open my laptop after, let's say, 6 p.m. or whatever your time off is. Are you ready to respect your lifetime just the way you have been, leading organizations for change? Think about it. So, and then we come to emotional boundaries. Can you protect yourself from negativity and emotional overcommitment? This has been a sensitive topic in leadership as well as personal life. So, how many of you overcommit emotionally to your environment? It could be your seniors, it could be your peers, it could be your office work, it could be personal life, it could be anything. Just because we want to do things. Yes, Hamid says sometimes we are forced because we're dealing with partners from different time zones. Yes, absolutely. So when we're dealing with different time zones, are we ready to take away our own time when we have given some of our rest time to a time zone? It is so important to protect ourselves from overcommitment, and time also is an overcommitment. So, see, I've often said the only currency that you have is time and energy. All you have is time and energy. And yes, it's a great thing. And I'm sure a lot of inspiring leaders would have said that if you use your time and energy being leaders, that's one of the best things you can do. But what are you doing with your life? After all, you got one life. Think about it. Not having boundaries around these things can totally drain all of you. I'm sure you agree with this. Let's take a little poll here. So let's start the poll. I'm launching a poll which is about these 6 areas, and you can mark more than one areas here and tell me which are the areas where you feel you could draw better boundaries, where you need to really pay a little more attention. So please mark in this poll. Interesting. Poll is going on. Beautiful. Yes. So if we look at the poll, we see the biggest area happens to be emotional boundaries. Almost 50% of you have said they find it difficult to draw emotional boundaries. Yes, that's one of the biggest areas. Even I have seen when I work with leaders, also with individuals, that the minute you start coaching them and going deeper, there's some emotional boundary that's being flouted time and again. Emotional boundaries are big. I see in the rating now, information overload is now going to 57%. Yes, all the beeps all the time, beep, 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 all the time you're getting, it's crowding your mind all the time. Information overload, 57%. And believe me, even though our sample set could be small, but these numbers, if you look at this poll results right now, I'll read it out for you. Work-life balance, 35%. Relationship with co-workers and peers, 26%. Relationship with superiors, 26%. 26% of people feel that they're unable to draw boundaries with superiors. 26% feel they're not able to draw boundaries with peers. 57% feel there's an information overload. Think about it. Are you ready to say no to this information overload? Are you ready to put silence to some of the notifications that you don't require? Uh, in chat, Ramana says emotional boundaries are difficult. Yes, because people feel possessive. Exactly, Ramana, I can relate to that. And that is where I had actually written this particular book. I don't know whether you can see it. This is no means no honey. And it's purely on emotional boundaries in the personal spheres. That makes emotional boundaries. Drawing emotional boundaries. Today we'll talk about how do we draw boundaries also. So thank you for this. Uh, so we're closing the poll right now. We saw the poll results. We saw what is happening right now. Now, let us talk about what to do. Yes, thank you. It unearthed a lot of latent issues. Believe me, boundaries is a big area of work. And when you work with yourself and your clients and as leaders with yourself and your teams, a lot of energy would be saved and your productivity is going to increase. So let us take a few questions. Let us take a few answers. I'll ask you a question in the chat box itself. And the question is, whosoever has drawn boundaries in any area, I'm sure some of you have drawn boundaries in almost all areas, and some of you have drawn boundaries in some areas. So, how have you done so? What did you actually do? If you can just put it in one word or one line, what exactly did you do to draw a boundary? I will go to the previous slide. These are the 6 areas. Uh, so they've said establish trust first. Beautiful. That's a wonderful way. These 6 areas. What did you actually do? Right. The first step we do is become aware within ourselves. We start identifying, like the poll we did, there could be a lot of other tools also. We start working with ourselves, or leaders can hire any coach who will help them find out what are the weaknesses in boundaries, what kind of boundaries out of these 6 or some other are weaker. This weakness is the key. So, the catch here is that when we are on our leadership journey, sometimes we start losing our true north. We are not even looking at our weaknesses. We are so inspired with our strength that we are not looking where the weaknesses are coming in. And some boundaries can become really weak. We start overperforming, we start overdoing things, we take on more responsibilities than we can handle, we take more responsibility than we are expected to do. And that is where our boundaries start going back. We start doing emotional favors, and that's where emotional boundaries get crossed. So first thing is we start becoming aware what our boundaries are. Where are the weaknesses? What are the weak spots? What are the blind areas? Then we define. So in each area, we define within ourselves what are our non-negotiables. What is something I will not negotiate on? And this comes from your core values, your personal core values. I would want all of you to think about some of your values that you hold, and and just think, what are you not going to negotiate on? You can put the answers in chat. Let me know what are few things which you will not negotiate about. Physical boundary, leave office at 3 p.m. and no meeting. That's wonderful. Wonderful. What other values, core values do you have where you'll say, I won't negotiate on this one because it is in my personal interest? Respect, trust, integrity. Yes, Adhir. When respect is one of the most important values, and when you start seeing that people disrespect you and you keep taking it because your role is like that, you weaken your boundary. Trust, integrity, respect. Nikhil says family comes first. Beautiful value. So think about it. What are the areas where you're not going to negotiate? Loyalty, wonderful. So these things are where we do not negotiate. Each one of you will have different core values. You can do this exercise with yourself. Just sit down, think about what are the things in life I'm not going to negotiate in order to preserve your mental balance, your peace of mind, and your resourceful state. And then once you have decided your non-negotiables, it is time to communicate it to others. Now, this is where some people have asked that how do I tell them that this is a boundary? What do I do? And this is where, let us focus. This is very interesting. First, we use the I statements. I feel, and I have to say that as assertive. We are not going to say, you do this. No, that doesn't work. I feel, that's how you're going to start your sentences, or it is about me. My boundary is about me. My boundary is not about you. My boundary is not about somebody else. My boundary is mine. It's my personal thing. It keeps the good stuff in, it keeps the bad stuff out. So some people draw boundaries by saying, this is my boundary, do not get into it. Whether it is home, family, relationships, businesses, leadership, vendors, your clients, negotiations, business partners. Boundaries do not work this way. When you say, this is my boundary, do not step into it. That has zero value. So boundaries come with consequences. Boundaries are drawn with consequential statements. If you cross the boundary that I've drawn for you, then I am not going to participate into it. Let us take the example from a relationship. If you are going to shout at me, I will exit this dialogue for, let's say, 30 minutes, cool yourself off, and then we can restart. If you keep disrespecting me, I will not be a participant in this negotiation or deal. It's okay sometimes to let go of profits, but it's not okay to let go of your mental peace. So boundaries are drawn with firmness, assertiveness, love, and empathy. You say, do not say that you are doing this. No, say, I feel that this is my boundary. And if I feel disrespected by you, or I feel my time is being disrespected, or I feel I'm getting a lot of emails, then I will switch off my laptop. I will switch off this discussion. I will walk out. It's about me. My boundary, I take the action. There's something I often say, and this is very important to understand. My state is my responsibility. The day we start taking responsibility of our own states, things are going to become far simpler. And then let's move a little ahead. Let's talk about implementation. Now, this is where we take baby steps, little tiny steps. We start small, but we stay consistent. For example, if I have to draw a boundary for myself that I will not stay in the office, and let's say after 6 p.m. or something like that, it is my responsibility to be consistent. So I first draw boundaries with myself. Boundaries have a lot in common with letting go. And I understand that many of us are scared of letting go things. It's a very interesting thing. If you want to learn how to let go, if you want to learn how to let go of anything in your life and draw a boundary with it, first let go of the benefits. When we want to let go of anything, we first let go of the benefits of it. If you're able to let go of the benefits, the rest of it is an easy game. Think about it. So we implement, we start small, we become consistent with it, and we consider the consequences for any boundary violation. So let us turn to chat once again and think about these particular 5 rules. The last one is self-care and support. We prioritize self-care and seek support when needed. We hire a coach, we talk to friends, we talk to therapists. But it is important that whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, prioritize self-care and seek support. Let's turn to chat. And I have a question for you right now. Which of these 5 steps you think are easier for you, and which one is a little difficult for you? Self-awareness, defining limits, communication strategies, how to say, implementation, and self-care. Which are easy, which are difficult? Easier, self-awareness, defining limits. Yes. Difficult, communication, implementation, and self-care. Easy, self-awareness, communication strategy, and self-care. Yes. And what are the difficult ones? Communication, how to say, how to tell it to others. And we tell it to others by saying, I feel these are my boundaries, and I will not participate into this thing if you cross my boundaries. Difficult. Introspection. Oh, yes, Abdullah. Absolutely. Introspection is difficult. It is not easy. That comes as self-awareness. Difficult, define limits and implement. Yes. So when we look at this process and we take these 5 steps as steps to the process of drawing boundaries, we become aware what boundaries are weaker. Are my emotional boundaries weaker? Which of them are stronger? Which of them are weaker? Let's say work-life balance is weaker, or relationship with co-workers, with seniors, superiors, or information overload, or physical or emotional boundaries. And we become self-aware and we define limits. We define our non-negotiable. It is within us. It has nothing to do with anybody. Your values are yours. They're not public values. Communication strategies, we use I statement. Say, I feel these are my boundaries. And if you do not respect these boundaries, I will exit this conversation, communication, even deals for that matter. Yes, we do not allow any sort of blackmail when it comes to boundaries. And we do not blackmail others also. When we draw boundaries for others, we respect their boundaries also. That's the key. Implementation starts small, be consistent, consider consequences for boundary violations, and self-care and support. So whenever we feel that the boundary is being violated, we just step into self-care and we maybe give a knock to our coach. Hey, coach, I think my boundary is being violated. What do I do? And let your coach help you. That's my suggestion to all the leaders out there. Let your coach help. So that brings me to almost an end of this particular presentation. Let us summarize it and let's see what further can be done. And then we'll open it for questions and answers. Suggested readings, as I said, Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud is an amazing book. If you really want to draw boundaries as leaders and as coaches, please read that book. Work-life balance, relationship challenges with superiors, co-workers, information overload. If you are careful of these 6 things are going to make a lot of change. They will conserve so much of energy for you that you're going to win. These are some of the books, as I said, I had written. Most of them are about this, The Artful Nudge, No Means No, and Uncuffed Life. But before that, after that, this is what I do. I hold a lot of NLP trainings at our own center in Gurgaon. That's where I work from. And if you want, you can visit me in these places. Now, let's open it for questions. Is it a good idea? Please, this is open for questions, and I think the moderators can also help me with that. Thank you so much.
Yes,
We
the floor
don't have
is
any
open.
questions in the Q&A, so please, you can either put it in the Q&A or you can unmute yourself, raise your hand, and then you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
There are some
So-
questions now, so you could.
Okay, so there is a question, Ashish, from Devdeep, who's asking, is it possible that people in positions of power often delegate by saying this is a great opportunity for your growth, instead of saying, I'm burnt out?
Yeah. So this is where we use reframing to manipulate. This is what we call manipulative reframing. Yes, the most of the boundary violations are shown to you as great things for you, as not just opportunities, but also rewards. If you work overtime, you'll be paid extra. It starts at that level. And yes, it is important to recognize the language. That is what NLP helps me to understand, where we start looking at the structure of language and we understand that is this a violation wearing the cloak of an opportunity. And it is important to take away greed from our eyes, to look through. Know what you want. Know what you want to achieve. People can give you opportunities and people will tell you that we'll take away opportunities from you. That's okay. Let it go. Your sanity is more important than your opportunity. Think about it. So I hope that answers it. Kaveri is asking what suggestions.
Yeah.
Kaveri has a question. What suggestions can be made to organizations to encourage boundaries as a culture? Great question, Kaveri. Thank you so much. In organizations, when we do the Hexagon program, the Boundary Hexagon program, and I suggest all of you can freely use this model. I developed this model about 4 years ago, and I have been using it in organizations. And right from the top, we start teaching this model. There are charts, there are games about it. There are a lot of things you can do with it. And in a polite way, people learn to say, I feel my boundary is being violated. I'll take a little break from this. I will step back. So there's a physical activity we do in our workshops where people learn to take a step back. It's like a heat map. It's like if you're putting your hand on the candle, there will come a time when your hand will go back. And that is where we step back. Nikhil says, how do you integrate NLP into coaching? My understanding is coaching is non-directive and NLP may be the coach's agenda. Okay. Nikhil, thank you for asking this question. Personally, I would love to step into this area. NLP can be directive. There's an area in NLP that can be directive, but most of it is not. NLP is about understanding the structure of language, not the content. NLP is about structure. Structure means your coach identifies your beliefs, your values through the structure and not the content. So when NLP was being developed, the first book that was written was called The Structure of Magic, Part 1. Now it's called Part 1, The Structure of Magic, which is only into meta model, which is completely non-directive. Richard Bandler Jordan learned it from Virginia Satir and Fritz Perls, and it's a completely non-directive model. We use that in coaching. Then later on, they included Milton Erickson's work into it, which is directive. And yes, I know some coaching organization bodies believe that there must not be any directive work, but believe me, nudging can go a far way. In all my experience, I've seen that little soft nudge can help the leaders to grow and cross really big milestones. So I think this is how NLP I integrate in coaching. I've been doing it for 2 decades now. NLP is a pseudoscience. How much it can be imperative? Beautiful, Saira. I love that question. Yes, a Wikipedia article has said that. One, I'll tell you my own personal view. NLP is not a science. Coaching is not a science at all. Nobody can claim that any of them is science. I personally call them an art. And a coach is only as good as he's an artist in coaching or NLP. I would never call NLP or coaching a science. I've always called it an art form. So my question to you all coaches is, how good an artist are you? Thank you so much. I hope Sarah, it answers your question. I have been given strong feedback by corporates. Yes, I do get that, but I've been working with corporates all along. And yes, it works. So take NLP and coaching as an artwork. And you are the artist who's painting that beautiful picture. More questions, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I guess we are almost at the close of the session now. You can ask me questions. You can get my contact from the organizers. I will like to answer your questions at any point of time. You can buy some of these books on Amazon. They're available. And if you want to, if you're looking for NLP trainings, just go to nlpauthority.com and you'll find a lot of internationally certified programs there. So that's what it is. Thank you so much. Closing for now. Hope you have enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashish.
Mariana,
for the-
over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ashish. Thank you for the great session today. It was such a pleasure listening to you give such profound insights on the boundary hexagon model. It was truly thought-provoking. Thank you very much once again. Our next session topic is the leader as coach, and I would request you all to stay on the same webinar for the session.